Did we believe we could win? Sure we did, but it was time to put it away, and we knew that.
Fear being the greatest motivator?
Yeah. And never doubt the heart of a champion with Philadelphia. I don't remember high-fiving the locker room. I don't know that it was to that extent, but I think Johnny described it well. Just that maybe we just weren't as sharp as we were supposed to be for that third period. But, they proved heart of a champion, 35-game winning streak that year. They came right out and they came at us, and we were on our heels, that's for sure. And it was a day game, and it was hot outside. The ice was slow. It was a slog through that whole game. And I just remember going out for a shift, coming back to the bench and just putting my head between my knees. I didn't see Bobby's winning goal. I had gone out for a shift, and it wasn't a very long one, came off, and I just had leaned over and I was trying to catch my breath to get ready for the next shift. And then I heard the roar of the crowd.
I wanted to ask you guys, because back in those days, there weren't many afternoon games, right? And I know that I hate afternoon games myself. I hate them. But how did that seem to you guys? Just that one thing, you couldn't have your routine for that game. It was thrown off. So you find out, oh God, we got to play it in the afternoon. Like, you want to play at night because you're used to the time you go to bed when you're going to have your pregame meal, how you're going to drive to Nassau Coliseum, where you're going to park and all the rest of it. Did that throw you off a little bit at all, thinking about that? Why are we got to play in the afternoon?
I think it does. I think it throws you off as a player. As you guys all know, players are big on routines, and but it works both ways. It wasn't just us; it was them as well. So, yeah.
We didn't quite have that afternoon nap like we normally do on a regular game day. We love those afternoon naps.
I think more so it was just the heat. That, it was warm outside. It was a muggy day from what I remember. And you could feel it in the building.
You've described so well at the head of the show, the play, the passing, the rehearsals or the practice that went into that play. What was it? 1,000 times. Never worked in practice, but it only needed to work once. And John, nobody could celebrate like you back in those days. I mean, you would jump, and we remember the game in the first game in Philadelphia where you just jumped up and down, and your celebration after that goal went in. Kenny, you would just describe that your head was between your legs, so you didn't see the goal. John, you're right there. You're the principal that makes it happen with the great pass. Denny, where are you? First thought after all the heartache that you had gone through the 4 or 5 previous springs.
I was on the bench with my head down. I never saw the goal.
You too?
You went, Kenny?
Yeah, I had my head on the boards like this, Johnny. And then when the crowd went, I had my head on the thing. And then I saw everybody going after Bobby, and I jumped on the ice. I never saw the goal.
Brian Trottier had said, and he was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner that year. He had said, and this was kind of one of the most vivid things that I had heard coming out of that, was, of course, there were no digital cameras, no iPhones, no nothing. There were just good old-fashioned flashbulbs. And he said that he could actually taste the lead from those flashbulbs going off in the building. Is that true?
Well, I don't know.
I do remember in those days how fans would find their way onto the ice. And it wasn't just the players. There were a bunch of fans that had gotten through security or over the glass, and so that happened for a couple of our other cups as well. Yeah,
I think I remember, and again I think I remember the story was told to me winning the first Stanley Cup, Bobby Nystrom's goal, Bobby never touched the Stanley Cup because the hordes of reporters, after I had the cup, I handed it to Clarky because Clarky had been captain the year before, and then it got handed around to the rest of the team. But it was later that I found out that, by the time we got to the dressing room, Bobby, I guess, was still on the ice talking to reporters, either really excited or they weren't going to let him go. So that was interesting to me that Bobby never got to touch it until it was in the dressing room.
I want to ask you guys one question because I've had this experience too. How many seconds do you remember it taking you after the roar of the crowd, after the puck went in, how many seconds to go, holy fuck, we've won the Stanley Cup? Like, because you guys had scored goals, you'd played in overtimes, you'd done everything anybody could do, but the one thing none of you had ever done. I mean, Johnny, we want to ask you about Gordie Howe too. You played with Gordie Howe for 3 years, but you'd never won the Stanley Cup, and so there's got to be that little time warp where you go, "Oh, good God, we've won the cup."
For me, and I've said this many times, the first feeling I felt after that goal was relief. It wasn't joy; it was relief that we didn't have to go out for another shift or have another practice or play another game. For me, the way I described it was through the playoffs. We had those two sets of stairs that went down into Nassau Coliseum from the lobby to get down to the locker room, right? And I remember as the playoffs went on, how it became more difficult to walk up those two flights of stairs. That's how drained you become. And when you get into the finals, I remember hanging onto the handrails after a practice to walk up to the lobby to go to your car. But you find when you come to the rink and you put your skates on, you find that energy to go out and put it onto the ice. But so just the feeling of relief that we didn't have to go through that anymore. There wasn't going to be a practice the next day. And then after that, the joy kind of sets in about what just happened.
That's right. Just emotionally and physically drained.
Yeah.
What about you, John? You made the pass. Were you conscious at the moment the puck went in that we've won the cup?
There was it's like in slow motion. Things happen quickly. And when I released the pass and it hits Bobby's stick and it goes into the back of the net, that was like slow motion to me. And I'm saying, oh my God, it's over. It's over. We did it, And in addition to relief, exhaustion. And and to celebrate. And then all of a sudden it was just that, we've fulfilled our childhood dreams as a team and we made it happen. And I remember, Bill had an after game party at his place. And I went there for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and went home to bed. And I slept. I was so goddamn tired. I was so emotionally drained. I was done.
Yep.
You sure you didn't fall asleep in the corner?
Denny, you ran the gamut in terms of all of these years, and to finally be the first New York Islander to put your hands on the Stanley Cup. Put it in perspective.
Okay, well, I can tell you exactly what happened. It was a real thrill. I had seen the U.S. Olympic team that Kenny played on, raise that trophy, which was kind of like, gee, I hope we can do that this year, with the cup. But I will tell you, growing up in French Canada, my real hero was Jean Beliveau. And I couldn't tell you how clear the picture was in my mind of the big number 4 raising the Stanley Cup for the Montreal Canadiens. And here I was doing the same thing. That's exactly what went through my mind almost until the time that I got to the offense, to the blue line at the other end. And Al Arbor had said to me, he said, make sure you give Clarkie the cup first. And that is because Clarkie had actually been captain of our team the year before, but Clarkie went on to have not a very good year for himself. And he really didn't want that responsibility. So that's how the captaincy became available. And I was thinking Jean Beliveau, Montreal Canadiens, pumping the Stanley Cup as high as I could. And then as Al had asked me, I turned around and I gave it to Clarkie, who then went on a rampage with it. It was a great thing to see. And then I believe, guys, everybody got a chance to hold it on the ice, correct? I don't think, maybe Bobby Nystrom was the only one who didn't, because he was doing too many interviews.
Sal Marciano from NBC actually got him within about 20 seconds. After he had scored the goal, they were off in the corner, and he just barged onto the ice. And Bobby was more than happy to grant that interview. When you head into the 80-81 season in the playoffs, and now you've got the best record, 110 points, and there's got to be an entirely different feeling going in, knowing that you're defending champions, you've gotten it done. Now everybody else has got to chase us. And you sweep Toronto in the 1 versus 16, which was the format then. You beat the upstart Oilers in 6. Kenny, another long-range overtime goal in Game 4.
Edmonton, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You beat the Rangers in 6 and Minnesota in 5. And the catalyst that had come in March of 1980, Butch winds up getting the Conn Smythe.
Butchie had a great playoff. And the Conn Smythe Trophy is what it is.
But I did want to add also that for that second cup, Neil Smith joined the organization, and you guys still didn't miss a beat.
Yes.
I remember, I got to tell you guys this one in case I haven't told you before, but so I was working for free that year, right? I just was thrilled to get a chance to do the scouting for Al Arbor. And I was at all the Ranger games because I was scouting the opponents that you guys were going to play later. And then you're playing the Rangers, and Barry Beck says, his quote is, "They know what we're going to do before we do it." Okay. Now that had nothing to do with me, and I knew that. But Stan Fischler asked Jill Nee, who's the guy that scouted the Rangers? And they said, well, that Neil Smith. And so now Stan Fischler asked me to go on, was it Sportsnet back then, Vic, whatever the cable sports channel, to get interviewed, right? And this is at the Garden. And I'm like, I'm scared crapless because I didn't want the Bill and Al to think I was trying to get any credit at all that I didn't deserve, because I knew it did. I gave him my reports, but it wasn't because of me. And I got to tell you guys, I was scared to death that they were going to be mad at me and for doing the interview or taking credit. And of course they weren't. They couldn't have cared less. They had bigger things to worry about. But in my little brain back then, I was like, I don't really want to do this because I don't want those guys to think that I'm trying to take credit for these guys. I got very little to do with it. I just find that a funny back in the days, how you react to certain things, that I was like, oh, no. I don't want any credit for this.
Well, that's what makes a great general manager. And Bill was arguably the best in the business. You surround yourself with good people, and that's what he did. He has great scouting staff bringing you in, you surround yourself with great people and you let them do their job. And that's why that organization had so much success over the years.
I had a pretty tough moment when Bill traded my brother, to Minnesota. And I think it was J.P. Parise and Jude Drouin that came back. And that was a little tough for me. I just never expected that. And the way it happened was that I showed up for practice one day at the Coliseum. It might have been game day. I don't remember. And Putsy sat right across from me in the dressing room. And I sat down and I looked across and the stall was empty. That was really tough. And then Bill, I got to say, I spoke with Bill afterwards, a little while afterwards, and just told him how I felt. And Bill went back out and made a trade, and he got my brother back for the Stanley Cups. So Putsy ended up winning 2 Stanley Cups with it, which is really, that's all I wanted. You know, we were so close, my brother and and we were so close as a team to winning a Stanley Cup. I just really wanted him to be back in the dressing room. And I told this to Bill Torrey, and to Bill's credit, you know, he sent Richie Hansen to Minnesota, and we got Putsy back. And Putsy ended up being on 2 Stanley Cup teams. I mean, that's the kind of guy that Bill Torrey was. I think all of us, and I'm sure you guys had your chances to sit down with Bill and talk, and he would listen. And, you know, I think that he was such a great human in terms of a general manager. And that to me was one of the great moves that he made on our behalf, my brother and I, to bring us back. And then, you know, it just seemed to all fit in. And we all went on to win 4 Stanley Cups. And Putsy may not have been an integral part of winning the Cups because he wasn't playing that much. But you guys can attest, I don't think there's anybody better in the dressing room than Putsy. I mean, he was so behind each and every one of us. I think that added a tremendous amount to our psyche and getting ready for games. That Putsy was back in the fold.
There wasn't anybody better in the locker room than Putsy. Yep.
Yeah.
He was there for the Stanley Cups in 80 and 81. And in 82, team has 118 points. You've got a 15-game winning streak, John, February 20th, 1982, goal against Chico with 47 seconds left. Once again, phenomenal jumping up and down celebration. And it appears you guys are easily on your way to the 3rd cup. And you play Pittsburgh in the first round. You win the first 2 games easily. And to the point that the owner of the Penguins told fans not even to come to game 3. And the Penguins win that game in overtime. They win game 4. And they bring it back to Nassau for the 5th game where they've got a 3-1 lead late in the 3rd period. And this was one of these rule changers that took place after this game because you guys got a power play. 7-8 minutes left. Down 2 goals. And Arbor took Billy Smith out to put Rolly Melanson in because they allowed a warmup at that time. And so that bought time for the power play unit. Mike McEwen scores a power play goal. And then, John, the tying goal, puck's dumped into the corner. Randy Carlyle goes to get it, jumps over his stick. You're right on his tail to beat Michel Dion to tie the game.
Amazing.
Timing, and bounces, right? I'm sure all my teammates will admit that we got some good bounces along the way, you know, and we got a lucky bounce with that puck being dumped in a corner and jumping over Randy's stick. And I'm amazed at myself because of my release. Because as soon as I got it, I snapped it. I didn't think. I just reacted. It's on my stick, bang, snap it. And my teammates will attest, Michel Dion was standing on his head. We outshot him, 2-1. God, and we were throughout that whole game. Oh my God, we can't get it past this guy. And it just took, and if it wasn't for the quickness of that shot, I would have never scored on him. He was probably trying just to set in, and I just caught him off guard a little bit with that quick release.
So what'd you do for an encore in the overtime?
And much the way that Mike Bossy would shoot the puck, right? Not saying I can shoot it like the ball.
Yeah, okay.
Well, one of the Gordy Lane and I kid ourselves. One of the all-time great assists by Gordy was his dump in on that goal, and it's a dump in you do probably 15 times a game, where you just get the red line and hammer it into the corner. And Gordy did that, and sure enough, the puck bounces over Carlyle's stick, and Johnny fires it home. And then the overtime, you guys probably remember this, was Mike Bullard coming down a 2-on-1, and I was the only guy back. And as he's coming down the boards, I slide. I do the full slide to take away the pass across, and he shoots one, and it hits the outside of the post. He, 2 inches to the left, and they win that series. But we get a break there, and then Johnny pulls off the heroics after that. So, yeah.
And it's so ironic because you get the big scare early. Rangers take it to 6 in round 2, but then 8 straight to wrap up the last 2 rounds in a 10-game winning streak overall. You sweep Quebec, you sweep Vancouver. The big image of that series was Mike Bossy's backhanded goal in Game 3 when it was parallel to the ice, right? And even before that, in Game 1, 2 seconds left in the first overtime, and instead of eating the puck, Harold Snepps tries to go up the middle of the ice because he doesn't want to get hit by Trotz. Bossy picks it off, beats Richard Brodeur, and you guys were on your way.
And Bill Torrey was standing in in that where he always went for overtime. You guys remember he used to stand in the behind the glass where you guys went in and off the ice. He would come down there, and at the Garden, when he would come down and stand at the Zamboni gate behind the glass on the ice level if you guys were in overtime there. And I remember watching that and thinking, he breathed such a sigh of relief that the Islanders had scored on Snepsy's pass.
Well, you brought up that Mike Bossy goal where he was parallel to the ice, about 3 feet off the ice, and he backhanded that in. I still say no disrespect to the great Bobby Orr, but that one Bobby Orr gets all the attention, but he wasn't flying through the air. It was after he had already scored when he had his feet taken out from under him. Mike actually had his feet taken out from under him, still had the puck on his stick, and got the shot off while he was parallel to the ice. Yeah. The greatest goal I ever saw.
He actually, while he was off the ice, parallel, he went forehand to backhand, which was remarkable. So you win the third cup. Now, Neil Smith leaves the organization. Still, the team manages to survive. You come down a little bit during the course of the regular season, 96 points, second in the Patrick. You beat the Capitals in 4 because it was a best of 5 back then. Rangers in 6, Bruins in 6. And now you've got this cocky team from Edmonton coming in, the upstarts, and they're getting all the headlines. Gretzky, Messier, Coffey, Curry, Fior, Lowe, you name it. They're coming for you. This is probably one of the great challenges that you have during this run. What did you see in this team that maybe you saw in yourselves a few years earlier?
Well, I think that we knew that if we're going to win, we are going to have to take the old cliche, take it like one game at a time. And I think the thought process, at least in my mind, I wasn't going to carry the puck. It was going to be, you got to play really, really good defense. And Billy Smith was outstanding in that game one. I mean, unbelievable. And I think that's why we won that game one.
John, you want to add?
No, so hey, listen, who was getting all the press? The Edmonton Oilers. They were the machine. Nobody was going to stop them, you know. And a lot of what Bill did and what he liked for our team to be, even though we had won 3 straight, is under the radar. Keep it quiet, confidence, build on it. And were they really good? Yes, they were. They were really, really good. But if you ask me along the way, our team always had the ability to meet the challenge. If one team would play at a level and raise their level, we would be able to meet it and play better than that. And that's what we did against the Oilers. They were an awesome team, but whatever they threw at us, we matched and beat it by a little bit. You know, we just raised that level, and we were able to gain a lot of momentum, and they couldn't really get traction against us. And we just I don't want to use the word walk through them. We certainly didn't walk through them. We fought our way and played the best possible hockey we could to beat them because we knew we had to.
Was there a specific strategy to Gretzky going into that series, or was it simply a matter of the collective team defense? He only had 4 assists in the series, played a lot on the perimeter, and was that primarily to what you guys did or planned to do to defend against him?
I think we always had pride in the way we played defensively. You know, we always had Al's team, and if you wanted to play on Al's team, you had to take care of your own end. And how do you do that with an offensive-minded team? You shut them down. And you're looking at 2 guys right here, Denny and Kenny, and the rest of our defense shut them down pretty good. And if you're an offensive talent, you got to put the puck in net. You get a little frustrated that you're not doing it.
Yeah, and speaking to the strategy question, there was a specific strategy. Now, these guys will remember, Al, all we talked about was taking away his options. He used to like to set up behind the net, and teams would get sucked in, and then he would slip the puck by you, put it on somebody's stick. He also liked to curl. When he got the blue line, he liked to pull up inside the blue line and then just hit guys, whether it's Coffee coming down the middle or that's what he did better than anybody else, Wayne Gretzky. So I know Al talked about this a lot, was take away his options. Don't necessarily feel like you have to attack him right away, but take away all his passing options. So we concentrated on that. And then, as you mentioned earlier, Billy Smith, greatest goaltending performance I've ever seen was game one. By far, I think the greatest goaltending performance probably in the history of the NHL was Billy in game one. He stoned them. I think you could see the frustration set in. They were a young team, and they had a young, cocky coach, Glenn Sather, and I think they all got frustrated after that first game, and I don't know that they ever recovered from that frustration.
I remember the game plan that we had, and as Kenny and Johnny mentioned, the key was really for our forwards to come back. And in doing that, I know Gretzky would come down. Let's say I'm playing left defense. He liked to come inside the blue line and curl. And then he would have, 2 of his guys, whether it was Messier, Anderson, or, the Finn, whatever his name was, kind of going to the net, and he could put a pass in there. And I remember that all I had to do, what I had to do was rush Gretzky, meaning rush him to make a pass before he was ready. And the fact that we had our forwards following their forwards all the way to the net, Gretzky oftentimes never had a pass, never had a target. And so at that point, the puck would get turned over, and I think we could go up the ice, but to me, that was kind of what I wanted to do most, was to try and make Gretzky make a play before he was ready.
The game you were referring to, Kenny, game 1, 35 saves shutout for Billy Smith. Then you guys win game 2, 6-3. You bring it home, 5-1 win in game 3, 4 third period goals. And then to try to polish this off, 3-0 lead after the first in game 4. Trotz, you, John, Mike Bossy on a breakaway coming down the right side. Oilers get to within 3-2, but Kenny, empty net goal with $1.09 left. Smith is the Conn Smythe winner. And the story that I want to hear from your end, actually, Neil and I would like to hear this piece, is we have heard so much about what the Oilers learned after that 4th game. And they said, we had to walk past their locker room to get to the bus. And we're looking in, and there's families celebrating, and there's champagne, and there's all this other stuff. But the players themselves, it was rather subdued because of all of the wars that you guys had gone through to win these 4 cups at this point. And guys were on massage tables, and there's ice packs. And from your guys' perspective, is that exactly what was seen in your locker room?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just going to say, I think what they saw was most of us would take off our jerseys and shoulder pads, but we'd sit there in our underwear for a while, just taking it all in. It was an exhausting series. So I have a pretty good idea of what they saw, and that's pretty much what they would have seen. Because none of us jumped up and ran to the showers right away. I don't recall that.
They were a juggernaut. They were this young, cocky, very dangerous team. Everybody knew that they were the team on the rise at that time, and we had been through a lot of playoff wars. There was no doubt that at that time in the NHL, it was a harder path going through the Eastern Conference. We had to butt heads with the Bostons, the Philadelphias through those years, and they pretty much had a fairly easy run. Credit to them to being so good, but they didn't have to go through those kind of wars that we did to get to the finals. So I think when we met them in '83, that's why a lot of people thought they were going to win. They had all the rest. They had been challenged a whole lot. But I think us having to survive some of those previous series put us into that mindset. And as Johnny said, we were able to raise our game just enough to be a little bit better than them in that series.
John, what do you remember most about the 4th cup and the exhaustion, the physical toll that it had taken on you?
So I can attest to the Oilers learning from us, learning from that walk past our dressing room. I was lucky enough to play for Team Canada in '84 after the year that they beat us. And, I sat in the same dressing room as a lot of the players, Paul Coffey, Glenn Anderson, those guys. And they would say to me, boy, did we learn a lot from you guys. We learned a lot from what you guys did. And it helped them. There's no doubt it helped them.
So when you get to the following year, 4 straight cups, only team that had ever won 5 was the Canadians from 56 through 60. And of course, the Canadian teams that preceded you, winning 76 through 79. You have a good regular season, 104 points, 50 wins. Beat the Rangers in overtime in Game 5 in the Patrick division. Kenny, here's your last overtime goal from along the right wing boards after Don Maloney tied it on somewhat of a disputed goal with 39 seconds left. And that one was arguably a high stick, but goals allowed to stand. You guys still managed to survive. You beat the Caps in 5. But in Game 1 of the final, you talk about defending, and very few people thought that the Edmonton Oilers could actually win a 1-0 game. And they did so. In the first game, Kevin McClellan scored the only goal early in the third period. Did you sense anything different about the Oilers at that point, that maybe, just maybe, they are coming of age? Because you do win game 2 very handily, 6-1. But then you got to go out there for 3 straight. And that was one of only 2 years that the NHL played a 2-3-2 in the final. So you're going out there 1-1, but now they're looking to put their stamp on this series.
Well, first of all, I don't know who came up with the idea that you're going to play a 2-3-2. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I still say that we would have won game 5 on home ice without a doubt. That was the most unfair situation. And I was actually quite upset at one point because there was with Bill Torrey, because I'd asked Bill, I said, the great negotiator, Bill Torrey, how the hell could you be out-negotiated on something like that? I mean, if it were the other way around, we'd be praising you. But how, and I still don't know how it came down. I think it was the most unfair decision that seemed to be from the head office of the NHL. Certainly Glenn Sather and the Oilers probably brought the idea, saying that it's too far to travel. I mean, can you believe it? Give me a break. I mean, we played Vancouver in the finals, before that. I mean, there was no issue about travel time. I still don't know how it came down in the back rooms, but to this day, I think the 5th cup was stolen from us.
Did they do it? So they did it the year after that season too?
Yeah.
The
84 and 85 were the 2 years. Right. Yep.
Right. And what teams were in? That was Edmonton and who was and Philly. Yeah, it was pretty. Listen, we look back and we look and were we getting a little older? Yeah, we were. And did we have a couple of injuries, key injuries that kind of hurt us? Yeah, But I still believe if we had the opportunity to come back and play a game 5 at home and gain a little momentum and stop theirs, who knows? But you know what? At the end of the day, they were a mighty team, pretty good hockey team, and they were going to be tough to beat, the second time. But I like to think we would have had a pretty good shot at it.
Totally agree. I just, like I said, no one can guarantee that we would have won the cup that year. But my God, at least it was a shot. I mean, that was, especially that it had not been done before, and I remember being in my hotel room and there was like these guys with trucks, going around the hotel, honking the horn, late at night. It was a full week that we had to live in Edmonton. I mean, that never happened before in any playoffs that I've been in. So why this time, and who agreed to it?
Denny, I'd heard this story, and I don't know if it's true, and maybe you can clarify here, that Billy Smith had bought his suitcases to the rink because he thought he was going back after game 4. And I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know that. I don't know if that's true or not. Smitty was always a little bit of the head of the curve. But you talk about, when we did beat Edmonton, I mean, Smitty was unbelievable. I mean, the goaltending was incredible. He was incredible. And fun to play in front, right, Kenny? Because he didn't have to worry too much. I mean, he'd stick guys with his stick and push and shove. And, he was the goaltender and part defenseman all at once.
Yeah. Get a little thing going with Glenn Anderson also going back to 83.
Right.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. It was simple to play in front of Billy. He just wanted you to clear guys out in front, and keep the shots to the side. If you did that, he says, I'll do my job. And he did it so well.
And the other thing I really loved about him is that he would never really shoot the puck around the boards, or anything like that. I mean, he'd always deposit the puck right behind the net so that when we came in, not only did we have easy access to the puck, but we were protected right away. He was never known to be a great puck handler, but I'm telling you, on the inside, he handled the puck perfectly so we could go pick it up and still be protected. And he would use the butt end of his stick. He'd stick it out a little bit, and that gave us a little more protection as well.
I have a video on my phone to this day of, I think it was Larmer. It was definitely Lanny McDonald and Billy Smith, and it was at the Nassau Coliseum. And something went on between Lanny and Billy Smith dropped his gloves. And Larmer, of course, being the defenseman, came in to go after McDonald to say, he can't fight my goalie. And Billy Smith pushed him out of the way to get into the fight with Lanny McDonald. It was a hell of a fight. But just the fact that the defenseman wasn't able to go in and say, no, get away from my goalie. Billy says, get out of here.
Well, he used to tape that. He had that stick, and most goalies would saw it off where their knob was. But Billy had that. He had his knob, and then he had another 5 inches of sticking up there. And I think they changed that rule after Billy played because he caught a lot of guys coming skating by the crease. He would give that quick jab with the end of his stick. And the one time Lindy Ruff, he did to Lindy Ruff, and Lindy turned around and it went right after Billy, just tackled him and went.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Billy was well known for those kinds of battles when he was playing junior hockey in Smith Falls. I think that may have started the Battling Billy kind of moniker.
Well, and after he had slashed Gretzky up in Edmonton in those first couple games there with swinging a stick behind the net, you guys probably remember that. I think it was in game 1. Because we were in Edmonton the next day, and the front page of the newspaper, much like the New York newspapers, they had a full page photo of Billy Smith, and they had bullet holes in the photo, and the headline said "Public Enemy Number 1." Can you imagine in today's world if somebody did that? Like, yeah, Public Enemy Number 1. It had bullet holes, and Billy's front of it. Yeah.
You guys fought this to the end. Lose game 3. Messier makes the great move on Gord Dineen to tie that game. It ends up 7-2. Gretzky gets his first 2 goals ever in the Cup final in game 4, 7-2. You guys go down 4-0 after 2 periods in game 5, the elimination games. But a young guy named Pat LaFontaine scores twice, and you guys pushed, and you just couldn't get any closer, and then Dame Lumley hit the empty net with 13 seconds left, and it's over. But to have still had that much left in the tank after 4 years winning the Stanley Cup, 99 playoff games that you guys had played in that year, and there was also the Canada Cup in 1981 that was built into the mix. To have played that much hockey, to have been that valiant right to the end, when it's all said and done and you're in the locker room, the dynasty is done. But what is the sense? Can you even appreciate the accomplishment of what this team had done and what it represented in hockey history?
I don't think you can use the past tense. What does it represent that we won 19 consecutive playoff series? That is now. That'll never be beaten. And, so all of us can look back at our accomplishments. And as I said, they will never be equaled or beaten.
That loss hit me hard. I hadn't lost, since 1979, basically, the Olympics to the Islanders and then to a fifth final. And you would have thought, okay, it's tough, but it's not devastating. That was devastating to me when we walking in the locker room. I kind of knew, all of a sudden I knew how other teams felt when we knocked them out. But to lose in that fashion, but we just literally ran out of gas. No excuses. The way I like to describe it is they were a great team and it was their time, like we had our time. But that was a hard one for me. It was tough to see, and we were without a lot of guys. If you look back at the stats, we had a lot of guys that missed a lot of games through that playoff run. A lot of our regulars were dealing with injuries and stuff, and not to take anything away from them, but we just ran out of gas. Yeah.
Well, for Kenny Morrow, he had never lost. He was a winner. Kenny wrote a book that I say everybody should read because, I mean, all through his years in college and, right, Kenny? I mean, Bowling Green, you were winning championships, and you come to the Islanders in 1980, and you get the gold medal at the Olympics in 1980. Then you come to us and you win 4 cups in a row. It's a great, great story about a guy who just kept winning at every level he's ever played. So I read your book. I'm happy to report that it was really, really interesting and incredibly unique, as you know, and that's why it was written.
Well, honored that you wrote the preface for it, and what I have told people recently, I just said to me, it all just felt normal. I don't know about you guys, but like when people asked me to write the book, I said, I don't feel like I did anything special. I just felt like through those years, it just felt normal to be winning, coming to the rink and winning games and winning playoff series. And I don't know if that's the way you guys felt about it, but it was something that we just did for a long, long period of time. Yeah.
Well, it's very unusual because I know Johnny and I, we suffered through some pretty tough losses. And I'm thinking of 1979 when we lost to the Rangers. That was brutal. So, but your book is amazing, and congratulations on definitely being a winner.
Well, and we got 3 of the guys here. I'll have to tell you, it was in the book. That's what actually started us writing the book. He said, pick a moment. And we picked that goal, that empty net goal in 83, and the group hug that we had afterwards. And it was Dennis, Johnny, Bobby Nystrom, and myself were on the ice for that. And after the puck went in the net to kind of seal the win, we all had a group hug there. And I just said, I love you guys. And I said it over and over again. That's how we started the book. We took that story and then just built on it. So one of my favorites.
Really good book.
Yeah.
Right back at you, Kenny. Right back at you. Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous book.
Thank you.
Great job.
I got to ask you guys a question that, the Rangers 94 Cup for me has grown in 95, 96, 97. People were just like, you're no big deal. You got to win it again and da-da-da-da-da. And they didn't appreciate it at that time as much as they do today. Today, you're like a mythological figure out there. And I just wonder if that's the same for you guys. If at the time you felt like, I wonder if they really realize what we've accomplished last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was. But today, do you feel like you're more appreciated today than you were when you were actually doing it?
I don't know if I'm more appreciated, but I don't think it actually sinks in until many years later what you've been able to accomplish. You have other things in your life that take over after you finish playing, and it's not. I think it's through the lens of a lot of years that you're able to look back and really appreciate what you were a part of.
Yeah, and you see how it's not even going to be close in terms of the team accomplishing what we did, it's never going to be close. 19 consecutive playoff series. And, also in a time when there was a lot of real good competition out there. The Gretzkys, the Bobby Clarks, on and on, I just feel very fortunate to have been part of it. And I'm so proud of that era. I don't see, of course I'm biased, but I don't see any team being able to come close to the accomplishments that we had in the early 80s.
John?
As you get older, you definitely you have those moments where you have to shake yourself and say, "Holy jump!" and look what I was a part of. How lucky was I to play with great teammates like those two guys and the rest of our teammates. Tremendous opportunity. My first day at training camp with the New York Islanders, I walked around that area, when we had 60 guys at camp, and I looked at Dennis and looked at Bobby now and Clark Gillies, and I said, "How the hell am I going to make this team?" I was worried that I wasn't going to make this team, but they had a plan, they had a place for me, and I'm so lucky and blessed that they gave me the opportunity to be a part of this team. And you just as you get older, you think about it, it makes you feel good, right? That you accomplished something of what we watch today, and we watch these guys on the ice today trying to win a Stanley Cup. And you go, not that easy, huh? It's really, really, really hard.
But Johnny, weren't you already signed on a one-way deal?
I was, and I always felt I had to earn my time, right? And I was really intimidated that first season.
John, you got a chance to put another dagger into the Oilers in 1986 when you were playing with Calgary. And it's the famous Steve Smith banking it off of Grant Fuhr's leg and back into the net, which propelled you guys into the final with the Flames. And I just wonder, you're a lot older by then, and you'd been through these great times with the Islanders. How did that whole thing feel to you at that point? You were getting later in your career, but you had another chance to win another cup.
It felt really good. And I'm going to tell you, we had, we played Montreal in the finals. The toughest part for Calgary at that time was getting past Edmonton. And we finally accomplished that as a team. And now we're playing Montreal, and I'm looking at our dressing room and I'm saying, wow, we're pretty talented. I wish I would have been, I know I said it many times, but I wish I would have said it more, much along the lines as Butch Goring telling us when he came to us how good we were as an Islander team. The Calgary Flames were extremely, extremely good. We had great young talent. But on the other end, you had Patrick Waugh and an experienced veteran Montreal Canadian team that outgritted us at the end. Not out-talent us, but and it's hard, right? It's hard so you can relate it to the Oilers playing us, talented. What else do they need to get to the next level? And for Calgary, it took them another 2 years to realize, hey, we're back again, and we have this opportunity. And we are, they learned a lot from that playoff against the Montreal Canadiens.
And that ended up being the only visiting Stanley Cup winner in the Montreal Forum.
Wow.
That Calgary
Is that
team.
right? Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I just want to ask a personal question of each of you guys, because I've been thinking, I've really so much enjoyed this. Ken, if I could start with you. I'm sure you get asked stupid questions all the time, and I'll try to make this one intelligent. But when you beat Finland and you knew then that you'd won the gold medal, I know that everybody thinks about the Russian game as being the time when there was a huge celebration, all that. And I think a lot of people think that's when you won the gold medal. And we all know that's not. You had to beat Finland. When you beat Finland and you knew you'd won the gold medal, when you beat Philadelphia in overtime that afternoon and you knew you'd won the cup, I know you said you feel relieved. But what were the two feelings like? Can you compare the two at all?
It's hard to compare the two. I've been asked many times what I like better, and I like to say I love them both. They're so different. The difference being that through so many years having gone by, the New York Islander accomplishment. When I'm in the New York area, I get asked a lot about the Stanley Cups. Around the rest of the country, what comes first to their mind is the Olympic, because as we all know, it turned out to be more than a hockey game, more than an Olympic win there, because of everything that was going on in the world. So thank God that I got to experience both of these things. And, I've given a lot of credit to the hockey gods in recent years for everything that I've had happen in my life, and especially in my hockey life. So great timing. So thankful and honored to have played with so many good teammates. And my first thoughts when we won all of those things were to the people that helped you along the way. Hockey players are great about that. It's your family, it's your coaches, it's everybody that took you to practice when you were a kid. And your first thoughts go to all the people that helped you along the way.
John, you and I have known each other since I think it's like 72 when we played summer hockey together. Tamashanner with Gus Badali and Mike Penny in that group. That's when I met you. You're a young guy. Mike, my personal question for you is, what was it like at 18 years old to go and play with Gordie Howe?
What was it like? Wow. So I'm 18, he's 46, right? Built like a thoroughbred, muscles everywhere, just an unbelievable, great specimen of a human being, right? And his stall was right across from mine. And every day I go, holy jumping, that's Gordie Howe, right? So we opened up the brand new arena in Houston. It was called the Houston Summit. And we were the first pro game there. And I'm playing center ice with Gordie Howe on my right, Mark Howe on my left, Marty Howe on defense, and a guy named Paul Popiel. And I just can't believe it. I've got this starting assignment, and I'm playing with Gordie. I was so exhausted. After 30 seconds, I went to the bench, and I'm just hopping and puffing, breathing like, oh my God, I'm so excited, right? Gordie comes in next to me, and he takes his head, his big head, and he rubs it into my sweater and just grinding away his sweat and his nose and all over my jersey. And I'm looking at him and going, not a word. I didn't say a word. I just kept quiet. But Gordie was, he gave me the nickname Tonto, because he said, you look more like an Indian than most Indians look like Indians. That's what he would say to me all the time. And I said, really? So he called me Tonto. That name, and I wanted to get rid of that nickname so fast, but I couldn't, because the rest of the team loved it. And that was my nickname when I played there. Anyhow, tremendous human being. He was awesome. He was a competitor, fierce. You wouldn't go near his circle, his body, because if he thought you were going to hit him or do anything to him, he'd stick you. Just so tough, and such a great human being.
What a great honor to have had that in your lifetime, to have done all the things you've done, including being able to tell your kids that you played with Gordie Howe. I mean, I find that fascinating. Denny, the last one. I never told you this. You were always an idol of mine. I played defense. You were in the Bobby Orr era. We all wanted to be Bobby Orr. but I got to tell you, I was there the day you got drafted at the Montreal Hotel. You were always somebody I still do obviously look up to you. You've had more accomplishments in your playing career than 100 hockey players put together. What would you say in your personal life is the thing you're most proud of over all those million accomplishments that you've had?
That's very, very easy, Neil. Being captain of a Stanley Cup team. To me, that's what it is. It's the major. I shouldn't say. I don't know how to word it, but when you ask that question, what sticks out in my mind and what I'm most proud of is to have been a captain of the Stanley Cup team and to have been part of the New York Islanders in that era. Nothing will ever, I won some Norrises, I won the Rookie of the Year, but individual awards are good, but there's nothing like being able to share in the victories as a true champion like the New York Islanders were throughout those 4 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
Vic?
Denny Potvin, John Tonelli, Ken Morrow. Thank you so much for giving us this much time today to walk us through a dynasty that is going to last for ages to come. I think for Neil and myself as lifelong fans, historians, we both played him on a bigger level than me and you guys on the biggest stage. It's been an honor to share your dynasty and hear your stories. And we thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having us. And I love being on this with Kenny and Johnny. So greatest teammates, greatest team ever, I think.
Terrific.
I'll agree with that.
Thanks, Vic. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
seeing you, JT.
Really
Dennis.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
May 24th, 1980, the start of the dynasty 45 years ago.
Ouch.